Welcome. My name is Kamini Desai, and I've been teaching the inner dimension of Amrit Yoga for the last 25 years so that people can learn how to manage their stress, their anxiety, their worries, their reactions with a little bit more skill so that they can create more ease and peace in their lives. What I want you to consider today is that things don't cause stress. Now that's a big statement. But what I want you to consider is that it's not the people or the things that are causing my stress, but rather my resistance to them. So I want you to think about being at a red light. Who's ever been, maybe you have been stressed at a red light before, where you did not want to be there. But you can also think of times when you were sitting maybe at that exact same red light and you had absolutely no problem with it. So that tells us in a very simple example that the problem isn't the red light. The problem is how I am with the red light. On one day, I'm relaxed, I don't need to get anywhere, I have no problem with the red light. Maybe there's some cute guy or girl over in the other car. I'm actually happy with the red light. And another day, I have to get somewhere. I need to get to work, I'm late for work, I haven't been on time the whole week, and now I have a problem with the red light. Not because the red light is out to get me or that it's trying to assault me, but because I have an inability or I don't want to be where I am. I want something about this moment to be different than it is. Right? So most of the time when we are in the world, what we usually try to do is we try to change the thing that appears to be causing my stress. So if it's the colleague or the boss or my wife or the husband or whatever it is, we tend to try to change them. And what yoga says is that you are the common denominator to everything. That everything in existence, and this is for you to consider, is just the way it is. And it's not until you push up against it that it pushes up against you. That the moment that I can't be with the red light the way it is, I have a problem with it. The moment I can't relax with my colleague or my husband or the wife, however they are, that's when I have a problem. In essence, it comes down to this quote from Yogi Amrit Desai, which I'll share with you. Nothing is a problem until you decide there's one. Right? And think about it. Is traffic a problem until you decide it should be different? Are long lines a problem until you decide they should be different? Even being late for your plane or your plane being late, you can feel the moment at which it switches over from, okay, to, oh, crap. And in that moment when it switches over, you can feel the amount of stress that you're feeling in your body increase. So most of the time, most of us are spending our times trying to change the outside things. And yoga isn't about that. Yoga is about changing the one common denominator. It's changing my ability to be with things as they are. And the basic premise is that if I can let go of my need for things to be different than they are, if I can learn how not to make a problem out of things, I'll experience less problems. Right? So what we're learning to do is expanding our capacity to be with the things that we would normally resist, whether it's the husband or the wife, whether it's the red light, and recognize that it's not out there. That what's causing the stress in my life is my division, my inability, my idea that things need to be different than they are. Right? That the moment that I'm here and I think I should be at work, the moment I'm standing in line and I think I should be in my car driving home, the moment I divide from reality, I create conflict. And if I can bring myself back to sitting in traffic, being where I am, being behind the red light, breathing and relaxing here, I will automatically reduce the amount of stress and conflict I experience. So this is the purpose of Amrit Yoga. And it's the purpose of our trainings, our yoga and yoga nidra trainings here, primarily our yoga trainings here. So the purpose of Amrit Yoga is really to expand my capacity, my personal capacity to relax with the things that I normally resist. And the way that we do this is through the yoga pose, right? So most of us think that the pose and yoga are the same thing. But in actual fact, a pose is a place to practice yoga. A pose is a place to practice expanding my capacity to relax with what is and to not need things to be different. So we put you in a pose in laboratory conditions and we put a little pressure on you. We say, touch your toes. And when you can't, you get to see how your division from reality, how your need to touch your little smelly feet is creating your own stress and conflict. And that if you can just let yourself be where you are in the pose, you can immediately take away that conflict. The thing is not about getting to the toes or not, it's about your ability to be where you are. And it doesn't mean you don't do your best or try to touch your toes, but the reality is your hands are where your hands are, right? Nothing's going to change that in that moment. You only have two choices. You can resist where you are and suffer, or you can accept where you are and go from there. And this is an exact metaphor for life. That what we learn on the yoga mat, to learn to expand my capacity to relax with what my body can and can't do and what it can feel, also translates to life. So sometimes I'll get put in a psychic pose. And the psychic pose may be learning that your plane has been delayed for 8 hours. Right? And what you'll feel is that tendency to want things to be different than they are. Right? I want to be in the plane. I want to be home. I want to be all these different things. But the truth is you're not. And you only have two choices. You can accept, okay, I'm late, now what? Or I can resist and suffer. So it's either accept and act or resist and suffer. And the choice is up to us. If we want less conflict and stress in our lives, we need to learn how to switch more quickly from resisting and suffering to accepting and acting. And we all know that point in time when we finally accept, okay, the plane's going to be 8 hours late, and you can feel the amount of stress in your body go, and then you go, okay, now what? Well, check if there are any other flights, ask around if there's anything else I can do, and if there's not, go get a nice meal. Suddenly the thing that seemed to be assaulting you so much becomes so much less stressful. So what we teach using the 8 limbs of yoga and the 7 principles of Amrit Yoga is your ability to expand your capacity to be at calm and at peace with more of life. Right? So let's look at how we do this. On a yoga mat, in laboratory conditions with air conditioning, when you can come out anytime, we put you in a physical pose. We say, try to do dancing Shiva, where you put your hand to your toes and you balance, or tree pose, where we're asking you to balance on one foot, right? And if you can't do that very well, and I'm guaranteeing you there will be certain poses that you can't do very well, and you know what? You're not supposed to do them well, because that will tend to bring up your reaction. It's going to bring up reaction in the mind and sensation in the body. And as that intensity increases, now is your chance to practice relaxing with what is. So the very first thing that we will ask you to do is to ask yourself when you're doing this pose, am I practicing in a way that's moving me towards stillness, towards consciousness, towards a quiet place, or am I practicing with conflict, with stress, with resistance to how it is? And if I'm practicing with resistance, we pull out of that and we redirect our attention to how can I practice this in a way that's teaching me how to be more relaxed in life? Otherwise, kind of what's the point? We all know how to be in conflict. We all know how to be in stress. Why add yoga as one more place where you practice that? We want to learn how to be relaxed in the midst of stress. So intention allows us to reorient. And this corresponds to the first 2 limbs of the 8 limbs of yoga, yama and niyama. Next, we move on to alignment or asana, and we learned that we use the pose as a place to bring up these resistances and learn to practice relaxing with them. And what I'd add to that is, can I be aligned with this moment just the way it's showing up? Not how my mind says it could be or how it should be, not my fantasy of yoga journal lady or guy, just how I am now. And to notice that when I can align with how it is, my feeling of being assaulted by life, by the pose, by whatever is happening goes down. And to help me do that, we use breath. We use the breath to change the state of the mind, to relax the body as a non-mental way of reducing my reaction to the moment, of coming back to, okay, this is how it is. Realign with the moment. We use inward focus or pratyahara as a way of withdrawing from the story that the mind has created about all the reasons why your plane is late and why it should have been different and could have been different. But you know what? It's not different. So the only thing to be with is withdrawing from that story. And if there's stress left over in your body, what you're going to do is breathe with it. Feel it. Relax with it. And if you feel yourself getting drawn into that blame or judgment or whatever it is over and over, use concentration, dharana, to pull yourself out of your reaction, out of your resistance to how it is, and maybe just concentrate on the flow of your breath flowing in and out. And the more powerfully you can focus on the flow of your breath, concentration or dharana, moving in and out, the less you're going to be dragged around by the mind's decision that something about this moment should be different. So now that I've gotten my mind, the reactive mind that wants it to be different, kind of down to one point. It's not indulging in a whole story. It's all down to one point of breath. What we can do is we begin to see from this kind of still point of the mind that I am not the mind. The mind is simply a conversation going on through a field of awareness. And I can choose to engage those thoughts. I can choose to engage those reactions. The conversation is going, and I can be interested in the fact that there is awareness through which a conversation is moving, or I can occupy myself with the contents of the conversation. And if I occupy myself with the contents of the conversation, I'm back in reaction. If I can just see, this is just something the mind is saying. It wants to have a reaction to this, and you know what? I'm not going to indulge it. I'm just going to let it come and let it go. Now you've got some traction. Now you've got entry into the final stage of yoga, which is integration, which is relaxation with the moment. So we started with the intention of learning to relax with what is, and what do we end up at the end? Relaxing with what is. One of the things that is so important about this is you can see how learning how to do this will give you life mastery. Instead of all these reactions pushing you around, pushing you into reaction, into stress, into blame, into judgment, into all the stuff we get into, you actually get to choose your response to life. Number one, we gain life mastery. But Amrit Yoga doesn't stop there. Amrit Yoga and the managing of reaction actually sets the stage for your personal evolution. All these reactions keep us from noticing our true nature. It's as if a sky, you are the sky, and that sky is filled with all kinds of reactions that are happening all the time, every day, day in, day out. All the things we wish could, should, would, could have been different. And they are filling that sky of awareness that we are, that quiet, peaceful nature that we are. And as we learn how to manage these reactions, there's less and less in that sky. It's as if we were taking out all the clouds, all the birds, all the airplanes, all the stuff out of that sky, and quieting it all down to the place that you can begin to notice, oh my God, there's a sky. Behind all the stuff, behind all the mind stuff, there's a quiet, empty, peaceful sky. And the more you recognize that, your sky-like nature, the less you will be at the effect of all this stuff moving through. So Amrit Yoga ultimately is intended to restore you to your own quiet, peaceful consciousness nature. And from that place, you can allow all the experiences of life, airplanes, people, traffic, lights, whatever they are, to simply come and to simply go. If you want to know more about our immersion and certification programs, please press on the button below or the link that you'll find near this screen. I know that there's so much value that you're going to get from this program. I hope to see you in person at one of our programs and for you to be able to appreciate the power of what this ancient wisdom of yoga has to offer you. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you soon.